Now joined from Washington by David Sedney. He's the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Central Asia. David, good to have you back on the show. You are a very critical and vocal critic about this whole withdrawal process. And looking at the press briefings, apparently President Biden has also realized that bringing stability to Afghanistan is a near impossible task. I mean, do you really think there would have been a different outcome if the U.S. had stayed even longer?
There would have been a different outcome if the U.S. had stayed longer. There would have been a different outcome if the U.S. had planned more. There would have been a different outcome if the United States had lived up to its responsibilities. There were many things that could have led to a different outcome from the incredible chaos and horror, actually, that all of us have seen on our television screen. President Biden, of course, is worried about the fact that his poll numbers in the United States are dropping. He has a midterm election coming up. This is in next year. He doesn't want to lose focus on the things that are important to him on domestic policy. But what every president of the United States learns, that international affairs, foreign policy, is the one area where surprises can come up and bite you and undermine your ability to do anything else that you're trying to do. And President Biden is now struggling. He's had an unprecedented number of press conferences and speeches where he's shifted from one point to another. But at the same time, the American people are standing up and saying, we need to help those people who helped us.
I want to push you a little bit, sir. I mean, you believe in nation building, contrary to the president. And as he said, the United States was never in the country, never in Afghanistan for nation building. What exactly do you mean by nation building? Because Afghanistan, as you know, is a very conservative, tribal society. And different studies have shown that most citizens actually want to live under the Taliban rule.
That's actually completely false, what you just said. There have been consistent studies going on since 2002 that show that 80% of the Afghan people do not want to live under the Taliban. 10% do, and 10% are in the middle. You can look at the Asia Foundation study that has been released every year since 2003, scientific and very data-driven. So you need to be careful before you make false statements. The Afghan people most Afghan people, and I've lived in Afghanistan for 3 of the past 4 years, most Afghan people want to be like the rest of the world. They don't want to be ruled by the Taliban. They don't want to be ruled by corrupt leaders. They don't want to be ruled by warlords that the United States helped put in power. They want their children to grow up to be doctors, lawyers, engineers. They want to be able to go to Disneyland. That's the kind of life they want. But the position of Afghanistan geopolitically, really at a crossroads of many cultures, has led to horrible devastation over the last 40 years, with millions of Afghans dead, millions more wounded, millions more as refugees. The United States went in to help, but unfortunately, it made a lot of mistakes. But in the end, we can argue about the past. We can assign blame in history books, but we need to deal with the situation today. And the situation today is that the United States owes those people who has helped it to give them the opportunity to leave, just as we had promised we would. And the Biden administration has not done a good job so far. It looks as if it's improving slightly. But the President Biden's press conference today, his third major address on Afghanistan in a week, shows that he is finally getting that it's something that he has to get right, or else he might lose his job.
Okay, let me ask you this. I mean, we now live under a new reality, namely that of the Taliban sort of in the driver's seat. Do you think that the U.S. even considered this scenario? I mean, that of the Taliban returning as a ruling government force?
Certainly, the United States considered it. It was in classified, unclassified briefings for going back for many years. The problem is the United States didn't really plan for it. People talked about it, but they didn't actually plan for it. The United States wasn't ready for it. Most of the rest of the world wasn't ready for it. But the Taliban were ready for it. The Taliban did have good plans. The Taliban did have a good strategy. And right now, the United States and other countries are struggling to deal with that reality.
All right. David Sedney, thank you very much for joining us here on TRT World. I do appreciate your analysis. Thank you.